You're listening to Give God 90, where we're not afraid of the tough biblical questions, because we will dig through the language, the culture, and the history to find the truth revealed in the words of our Creator.
I wanna see the light.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Give God 90, Radio on Demand. My name is Jerry Mitchell, your host for Give God 90. It is an honor to have you join me for just a little while today as we look at something very important, the difference between faith and trust, and which you have in your life. Maybe, if you're really, really blessed, you have both, just like Abraham did. More on that in just a little bit. Please let me invite all of our new people, because we have more people joining us all the time. Don't forget, go to givegod90.com. There you can see what we're all about. You can. I need to add a page to that, and maybe I'll have time to do that this week, because this whole thing got started from a conversation I had when I said to an Orthodox rabbi, if people would just live the way their Creator designed them to live for 90 days, they would see how much their life would improve, and they would just want to continue living that lifestyle. And I will get that up on givegod90.com so that everyone will have the opportunity to read that and how this whole thing came about. Also, don't forget, there's the books, Tradition of Truth and God's Universe, God's Rules, available wherever fine books are sold, as the sales pitch goes. And you can find us not only on these podcasts, but on Facebook on Thursday nights. Myra and I do a live broadcast. We, at the same time, do a podcast for the audio-only folks who have the opportunity to listen all over the world. But if you're fortunate enough to be on Facebook with Give God 90, it has its own Facebook page. We broadcast from there every Thursday night at 7:30 Eastern Time, in the United States Eastern Time. And what we do is it doesn't go into the depth a lot of times that I like to do on Mondays with Radio on Demand. But what we do is try to keep things current, how things apply to your life, what we're seeing in the news. Sometimes we touch on prophecy, sometimes we touch on racial issues. We do these things because Bible is still significant. It still applies to our life today. And how we apply those things to our life today really reflects on our relationship to our Creator. So with all of that being said, we're going to look at faith and trust and how they should interact in your life and in your relationships. And I'm going to start out a little different. I needed to begin by giving you not so much an analogy, okay, but I want to talk about how people view things. Now, when I was very, very young, remember, I was born the same year that John Kennedy was murdered, okay? And he had issued a challenge to the United States. He said, we need to get a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth before the end of the decade. Of course, that decade would end on December 31st, 1969, because January 1 would begin a new decade. Well, the United States accomplished that. But prior to that, one of the myths that we used to be taught as children was that the moon was made of green cheese, right? Now, people that we believed, many people, many children, I should say, would sit on their knee of their mother or father, maybe a grandparent or an uncle, and they would hear stories about the moon being made of green cheese. Or at least in eastern United States where I grew up, that was the myth. So we grew up hearing that the moon was made of green cheese, right? Now, obviously, if we were going to land a man on the moon and return him safely, he was going to bring back green cheese. But that's not what happened, is it? What happened was, they brought back moon rocks. Well, that's impossible because the people that I placed my faith in, had told me the moon was made of green cheese. Therefore, NASA must be lying to us because they brought back rocks. Now, as a child, you can have that comprehension, that understanding. But once you begin to mature and you begin to realize that these folks who while you were bouncing on their knee and they were telling you these fantastic stories about the moon being made of green cheese, it was fictional. It was a myth. It was made up. Of course, the moon cannot be made of green cheese. It just doesn't work that way. Simply impossible. Now, I will go off on a little caveat here and say some people never grow out of their immature beliefs. Okay, we see that all around the world today. But now, let's get back to faith and trust. Why did I put my faith in what someone was telling me? Well, because they were in a position of authority. They were in a position where I should have been able to take what they said and depended on what they said. Okay? They weren't lying to me. They knew the moon wasn't made of green cheese, but it made a nice fable. It made a nice story. It made a nice escape from reality for a few minutes. That being said, many parents don't know when to stop having their children escape from reality. And they're doing their children a disservice when they do that because of trust. Now, trust is different than faith. In fact, faith, okay, faith, as Noah Webster defined it in 1828, is a belief, the assent of the mind to the truth of what is declared by another. In other words, it's what someone says, resting on his authority and veracity without other evidence. Okay, that's faith. Faith is you take what someone says and you believe it. Faith is based on speech. Faith is based on, are you ready for this word? Faith is based on promise. Trust, on the other hand, is not. Now, I had the opportunity, there's a friend of Give God 90s who works as a counselor, and I asked this person the other night, I said, is it fair to say that trust is not an emotional response? This person said, oh, absolutely, it's not an emotional response. Emotion has nothing to do with trust. I said, okay, let me ask this question. Can distrust, or when you stop trusting, can that be based on an emotion? And really, this person said, absolutely, and most of the time, distrust, the emotion that sparks distrust is based in fear. And that means being afraid of someone, not respecting someone. I mean actually being terrified of another person. All right? That is distrust. Webster, again, Noah Webster in 1828 defines trust as confidence, a reliance on resting of the mind on the integrity, veracity, justice, friendship, or other sound principle of another person. In other words, trust is actually based on action. What we can see, what we can touch, what we can feel, not emotionally, physically, but faith is based on promise. Now, if we look back into the Bible and we go back to faith and trust, I started with trust, and it's interesting, the word batach, really, if you look this up in Strong's, you're going to see that it says to trust. But if you go further than that, if you look at the word itself, back through the paleo, which means the imagery that we get, the picture language, the image we get when we see trust is that you are surrounded by people who will lift you up, people who want to see you succeed. You're surrounded, okay, by a group who wants you to be so successful that you cannot fail. That is the imagery we get when we see trust. Faith, on the other hand, is a little different. When we see faith, what we see is power and blood. Now, for Christians, that's going to mean one thing. For my Jewish listeners, that's going to mean something else. But power and blood come together in faith because it not only means something strong, something significant, but it means life itself. Right? Now, of course, for the Christians, let me continue because the son or an heir is involved here. So if you're thinking faith from an early Hebraic standpoint of language, you're going to see power in the blood of the Son. If you're thinking about this through a Hebraic standpoint, you're going to see the mighty blood of an heir. You can put some faith in that. And what they're looking at from that actually is Abraham willing to sacrifice Isaac. There was so much power in the sacrificial blood of Isaac that our Creator himself provided a substitute. Our Creator himself provided a substitute. This promise that God had made to Abraham really shows up. And I say it that way because God had offered Abraham a promise. Now, Abraham had already trusted God based on what he could see and what he could hear, or not so much what he could hear, but what he could touch. He looked around him and he saw the earth, he saw creation, he saw the animals, he saw all of these things, and he said, you know what? I can trust this entity that is asking me to go places and do things. But once Abraham had offered Isaac, and there was a substitute made, the promise was kept, Abraham said, now, not only can I trust my Creator, I can have faith that the promise that my Creator has told me will happen. Do you see the difference? Trust is when you can look at what many people would call empirical evidence. What they can see, what's repeated time after time, the same results time after time. Whenever something happens, you can always expect when you wake up in the morning, guess where the sun is going to come up. If you stand and you look east, the sun's going to come up. As the sun travels across the sky or the earth rotates, however you want to say it, you can always depend that the sun's going to go down in the west. That's just the way it works. It's the way it's designed. That we can trust because the empirical evidence says that it's going to happen time after time after time. It's happened for 6,000 years. It's going to happen till the sun stops shining. It's that simple. Faith, on the other hand, is when someone says to you, I promise this. Just like God promised Abraham, his heirs would become a nation. Now, the problem comes in our modern society when mom or dad or grandma or grandpa or somebody has you as a young child sitting on their knee and they say to you, the moon's made of green cheese. Let's take this a step further. Maybe they say to you, all you need to do to go to heaven is to have faith. Ooh, now I'm stepping on toes, right? because we know that there's more to it than that. We know, remember what James said, the demons have faith. The demons believe. Belief and faith go hand in hand, and they're terrified. They are absolutely terrified because what they do, even though they know the Almighty exists, they know what they have to do. Problem is, they have already bonded themselves to the enemy. They don't have the opportunity to repent. But the demons are terrified because they know the Almighty is real. They know what's going to happen to them. They know. They understand. Do we understand? Do we have that much faith? Maybe we should have an equal amount of trust, just like Abraham did. Maybe we should have an equal amount of trust, just like David did. Maybe we should have an equal amount of trust. Well, find, Gideon. An excellent example of someone who not only had faith, he had trust. He trusted the Almighty so much, he was willing to give his body over to the Spirit that wore him like a coat. You've heard me speak about that before. That much faith, that much trust, if you have equal amounts of faith and equal amounts of trust, they should go hand in hand, and you should be able to accomplish anything that the Almighty has given you to do. Now, you're not going to be able to accomplish anything that you want to do on your own, but you're going to be able to accomplish anything that the Almighty has given to you to do. It's that simple. The Almighty has given me the task of, for some reason, I don't know why He's given me this task, explaining to people that they really should, their lives can improve if they only will live the way their Creator designed them to live. That simple. Your life will improve if you live the way your Creator designed you to live. That's my message. That's my task to tell people. If you want to continue to live the way your denomination tells you to live, chances are your life will be miserable because you're still trying to do it the way somebody else, other than the Almighty, is telling you to do things. Let me say that again. Whatever denomination you're part of, and it doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter what religion you're part of, if you're living your life any other way, and I mean any other way, than the way your Creator designed you to live, you will fail. It's that simple. His promise to us, which He will keep, is what? If you hear my voice, if you obey my commands, you will be my people, I will be your God. He says that over and over and over again. Never, ever in the entire Bible does He ever say, if you want to do it your way, that's okay, I'll live with that. In fact, Isaiah opens in chapter 1 by saying, you've been doing it your way, and I am extremely upset and angry. I'm not coming to you, you have to come back to me. That's Isaiah chapter 1 in a sentence, okay? You've done it your way long enough, it's not working. I'm not coming to you, I don't like the way you're doing it, you have to come back to me. In other words, Isaiah chapter 1, in one word, repent. Remember Jesus' entire ministry did not revolve around death, burial, and resurrection. His entire ministry revolved around what He taught was repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Stop doing it your way, do it the Father's way. His entire ministry, that's what it revolved around. And anybody who says anything else is a liar, and the truth is not in him, and I can prove it. Wasn't that nice? That was just so nice of me to say it that way, wasn't it? Blunt, bold, to the point. Let's put it this way. Moses in Deuteronomy 13 gives us, let me say this again, Deuteronomy 13, Moses writes, if a prophet or a dreamer, that means somebody who's trying to get you to do something, or someone who has seen something, says you should follow any other way, you're following a different God. And guess what? You're not supposed to do that. He says, don't you go their way. Don't you follow them. If anything that anybody says disagrees with what Genesis says, what Exodus says, what Leviticus says, what Numbers says, or what Deuteronomy says, any of that, if you hear anything that conflicts any of that, don't listen to it. Do not listen to it. Do not go the way of the pagans. Yes, I'm being very strong here because this is very important. If you're going to put your faith, if you're going to put your trust in the same God, in the same Creator that Abraham did, then you are responsible for following that Creator. If you're going to go follow somebody else, he's going to look at you and you're going to hear Isaiah chapter 1. You've done it your way. I'm not coming to meet you. You have to repent and meet me. When I don't know how much more simple I can get this, okay? When Isaiah wrote those words, he was inspired. And he's writing as the Almighty at that point. They're not Isaiah's words, they're the Almighty's words. When your Creator speaks to you, and he says, if you're going to improve your life, just do it my way, not your way, your life will improve. It doesn't have a choice. You can trust your Creator based on the things you can look around and see. You can trust your Creator by the things that you can touch and feel. You can witness His creation. You can see the way it works. The information that you acquire through all of your senses speaks to the fact you can trust God. You can put your faith in God because He has made certain promises that have all been kept. Now, some of the promises that He has made have not been kept yet. That's called prophecy. Okay? When it's going to happen later on, it's going to happen. Now, Solomon said nothing that's going to happen hasn't happened already. It's just going to happen a different way. God's going to keep His promises. It might not be the same way next time. It might be a little different. That's okay. It's going to happen. That's faith. Your faith is based in the promise. Your trust is based on the action, the previous action. Now, I want to kind of go a different way here. I want you to think for a moment about someone other than God that you have put your trust in, whether it's a parent, family member, employer, employee, it doesn't matter. Someone in your life you have trusted. What brought you to trust that person? What was it that you decided, I can trust this person? Now, I want you to think about someone that you have trusted in the past but no longer trust. What was it that brought you to distrust that person? Chances are, if there was someone you trusted, it was their actions, the thing you saw. Their not their motives necessarily, but their actions, their repeated, consistent, defined actions probably made you say, I can trust this person. If there is distrust in someone, chances are there may have been fear, there may have been disappointment, there may have been anger, there may have been all of those things, And now you no longer trust that person. No matter what they say, you can trust someone to a certain degree, right? But here's the thing. There's only one entity I know of in the entire spectrum of the universe that you can completely trust and never worry about distrusting. And that is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You can put your complete faith in every promise he has made, because every promise he has made, he has either kept or it will be kept. It's that simple. You can put your complete trust because the Almighty wants to hold you and surround you in his hands and make sure that you succeed. You can have faith that he will promise you your success, because if you trust him, you're going to do the things. Now notice I'm staying away from love because love is an emotion, right? You can trust that he is going to keep his promise. So you can have that equal amount of trust, that equal amount of faith, and you can be assured that when you do things his way, it will work out. If he has given you a task to accomplish, it will happen. Jonah, it will happen. It will happen. He will not give you anything to do that you cannot accomplish with him. You can't accomplish it on your own. If the Almighty tells me to go somewhere, I can guarantee you he will supply me everything I need to go there. He will supply me everything I need to go there. Whether it's money, whether it's transportation, it doesn't matter what it is. But if I try to do it on my own, I may work myself to the bone to get there, but it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. That's the difference. That's the difference. If we think about these things this way, we can put our complete trust, our complete faith in our Creator. We can do things his way, and we can improve our lives. You will see an improvement in your life if you're willing to live your life the way he designed your life to be lived. But if you want to do it on your own, it's not going to work. It's not going to happen. When we think about trust and we think about faith, I want you to remember, trust is based on action. Faith is based on promise. I could go off on a lot of tangents about that. But as long as you remember trust is based on action, and it's not based on emotion, it's based on information. And not spoken information. It's based on information you can rely on, you can depend on. You can rely and you can depend on certain things, like the earth rotating or the sun moving, however you want to say it doesn't matter to me. You can be pretty sure that when you wake up every day, gravity is going to work the same way every day. You can trust your Creator, and you can have faith in your Creator. And I really hope you can find a way to keep those equal in your relationship with him. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope this has been a blessing to you. Until next week, I pray you have so many blessings that your cup will run over. Till next week, everyone, shalom.